I will discuss about the very important endocrine gland which is called pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is called the master gland of the endocrine system because it secretes tropic hormones which regulate the activity of several other endocrine glands like the thyroid gland, the adrenal glands and the gonads, that is the ovaries in females and testes in males. These tropic hormones stimulate the target gland to produce their own hormones. What are tropic hormones? Tropic hormones are the hormones which act on other endocrine glands and stimulate them to secrete their own hormones. The pituitary gland is the master gland because it secretes tropic hormones which regulate the activity of several other endocrine glands. The pituitary gland is divided into three parts. Number one is pars distalis, then pars intermedia and then pars nervosa. Pars distalis, pars intermedia and pars nervosa. Pars distalis, which is also called anterior pituitary, and pars intermedia forms the adenohypophysis. And pars nervosa, which is also called neurohypophysis, forms the posterior part of the pituitary and is called posterior pituitary. The pituitary gland, which is known as hypophysis, is located in a bony cavity called sella turcica. So sella turcica is a bony cavity within which the pituitary gland is located. The pituitary gland is connected to the hypothalamus by a stalk, and this stalk is known as infundibulum. This infundibulum forms the physical and functional connection between hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. All tropic hormones are secreted from the pars distalis portion of the pituitary. There are four tropic hormones. They are thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. First I will discuss about thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone is written shortly as TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. This thyroid stimulating hormone target the thyroid gland and stimulate the synthesis and secretion of thyroid hormones, that is T3 and T4. The next one is adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is also written as ACTH in short. This adrenocorticotropic hormone target the cortex region of the adrenal gland and stimulate the synthesis and secretion of steroid hormones which are called glucocorticoids, mainly cortisol. The third one is follicle stimulating hormone, which is written as FSH in short, follicle stimulating hormone. They target the ovaries in female and stimulate the growth and development of ovarian follicles so that the developing ovarian follicles secrete estrogen. Follicle stimulating hormone target the testes in males and acts on the Sertoli cells to stimulate spermatogenesis. But here we should know that sperms are produced from stem cells called spermatogonia. In plural it is called spermatogonia, in singular it is spermatogonium. These are the stem cells which produce sperms. Sertoli cells only support and nourish the developing sperm. And follicle stimulating hormone act on the Sertoli cells to stimulate spermatogenesis by providing nourishment to the developing sperm. The fourth tropic hormone is luteinizing hormone, which is written as LH in short. Luteinizing hormone target the ovaries in female and triggers ovulation. It also maintains the formation of corpus luteum. In males, luteinizing hormone target the testes and stimulate synthesis and secretion of androgens, mainly testosterone, from the Leydig cells. Follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone are called gonadotropins, as these tropic hormones target the gonads, that is ovaries in females and testes in males. Apart from these four tropic hormones, pars distalis region of the pituitary gland also produces and releases two non-tropic, that is direct acting hormones, which are known as growth hormone and prolactin. Growth hormone, which is written as GH in short, directly stimulate the growth of bones and cartilage. They stimulate protein synthesis in muscles and other tissues and also stimulate cell division. Thus, over-secretion of growth hormone will result in gigantism, whereas poor secretion of growth hormone will result in dwarfism. Another non-tropic hormone which is produced and released from pars distalis is prolactin. So prolactin, which is another non-tropic hormone produced and secreted by pars distalis region of the pituitary gland, promote development of mammary glands during pregnancy and stimulate milk production in them. But we should know that milk ejection is controlled by another hormone called oxytocin, regarding which we will discuss later. But prolactin promote development of mammary glands during pregnancy and stimulate milk production in them. But milk ejection is controlled by oxytocin hormone. We have already discussed about pars intermedia, which is a poorly developed, that is rudimentary region located between the pars distalis and pars nervosa. So pars intermedia is a poorly developed, which is called rudimentary. Rudimentary means poorly developed region, which is located between pars distalis and pars nervosa. It is very thin and often appears as a narrow layer of cells. Pars intermedia secretes only one hormone called melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is written as MSH in short, MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone. This hormone acts on melanocytes, that is the melanin containing cells present in the skin, and stimulate it to increase melanin synthesis and dispersion, thus influence skin pigmentation. But it is to be noted that in humans, pars intermedia has little physiological importance and melanocyte stimulating hormone has a relatively minor role. Pars intermedia is fused with pars distalis. Pars intermedia is fused with pars distalis, making it difficult to distinguish anatomically. Pars distalis is also commonly known as anterior pituitary. So pars intermedia is fused with pars distalis, that is anterior pituitary, and making it difficult to distinguish anatomically. This pars distalis and pars intermedia together form the adenohypophysis. Now why it is called adenohypophysis? Adeno means gland and hypophysis means pituitary. So adenohypophysis denotes the glandular part of the pituitary where hormones are produced and secreted from there. In contrast, the posterior pituitary, which is also called neurohypophysis or pars nervosa, cannot synthesize hormones. So adeno terminology is not related to the posterior pituitary. Two neurohormones, namely oxytocin and vasopressin, are produced in the hypothalamus and are sent to posterior pituitary for storage. These hormones are released from posterior pituitary when needed. That means posterior pituitary don't produce any hormone. They store the hormones coming from the hypothalamus. And those two hormones are called neurohormones. What are those neurohormones? One is oxytocin, another is vasopressin. So oxytocin and vasopressin are two neurohormones which are produced in hypothalamus. Then they are sent to posterior pituitary for storage. These hormones are stored in the posterior pituitary and released from posterior pituitary when needed. If we go into a bit details, we will see that hypothalamus and pituitary are connected by a stalk which is called infundibulum. Through this infundibulum, hypothalamus is connected to the anterior pituitary by a portal system which starts with capillaries and ends with capillaries. Through this portal system, blood flows, and this portal system is called hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system or only hypophyseal portal system. But the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary are connected by neurons, by tract, and this tract is called hypothalamic hypophyseal tract. By means of this tract, what will happen? The neurohormones which are produced in the hypothalamus reaches the posterior pituitary, and they are stored in the posterior pituitary and get released from them when necessary. Posterior pituitary is under the direct neural regulation of the hypothalamus. Already we have understood that. And this hypothalamic hypophyseal tract and the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system or the hypophyseal portal system runs through this stalk of the pituitary which is called infundibulum. So through this infundibulum, the hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system and the hypothalamic hypophyseal tract run through this, and the posterior pituitary is under the direct neural regulation of the hypothalamus. Now I will discuss the function of each neurohormone. First I will discuss about oxytocin, Then I will discuss about vasopressin. The neurohormone oxytocin stimulates a vigorous contraction of the uterine smooth muscle during childbirth. Oxytocin also stimulates the contraction of myoepithelial cells surrounding the mammary alveoli, thus causes milk ejection. So milk production is stimulated by prolactin, which we have already discussed earlier, but milk ejection is stimulated by oxytocin. This is very important and you need to remember this. Milk production is stimulated by prolactin, but milk ejection is stimulated by oxytocin. Oxytocin also helps in postpartum uterine contraction, thereby reducing bleeding after delivery. But this third point, that is oxytocin helps in postpartum uterine contraction, thereby reducing bleeding after delivery, is not written in NCERT. If you want to remember, you can remember. If you don't want to remember, no need to remember it. It is not there in NCERT. But those students who want to remember, for them again I am saying that oxytocin also helps in postpartum uterine contraction, thereby reducing bleeding after delivery. So what are the functions of the neurohormone oxytocin? Oxytocin stimulates a vigorous contraction of the uterine smooth muscles during childbirth. Number 2, oxytocin also stimulates the contraction of myoepithelial cells surrounding the mammary alveoli, thus causes milk ejection. And number 3, oxytocin also helps in postpartum uterine contraction, thereby reducing bleeding after delivery. Now I will go to vasopressin. The neurohormone vasopressin, which is also known as antidiuretic hormone or ADH in short, antidiuretic hormone, acts on the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct of the kidney and increases water reabsorption, resulting in reduced urine volume, that is decreased urine output, and indirectly reduced frequency of urination. But mainly it reduces the urine volume. It reduces the urine output. It decreases the urine output. So the neurohormone vasopressin, which is also known as antidiuretic hormone or ADH in short, acts on kidney and increases water reabsorption, resulting in reduced urine volume. This neurohormone vasopressin is also called antidiuretic hormone. Why? Because vasopressin reduces diuresis, that is loss of water through urine. As vasopressin reduces diuresis, that is loss of water through urine, it is also called antidiuretic hormone. So it is obvious that poor synthesis and release of vasopressin results in diabetes insipidus. This is all about the pituitary gland, the master gland of the endocrine system, which you want to know before you appear for NEET undergraduate examination.